All right, what's up, guys? Wanted to do a quick little chat on confirmation levels while I'm sitting here stuffing some mags, getting some rifle training in today. So, we hear different types of confirmation levels, lots of talk about that. Um, but I think there's some confusion on like which one to use and like how do you know which type of confirmation level to use, etc. So, what are confirmation levels? So, I guess the easiest way to understand this is by giving examples of targets. So like if you have a big open target, USPSA open target, for me, like inside of 12 yards, I need a confirmation one type of sight picture. What that would look like to me is like you're looking at a spot that you're trying to hit, and as soon as the dot comes near it, all I need to see on that is just like a color of a dot. I don't need to see a completely stopped dot. The dot doesn't need to be any more than just a color. In other words, I don't need to give that target much attention at all in terms of what I see the dot doing on that target, just because it's a bigger open target and it's easier to hit, easier to score the type of points that you're looking for on that type of target. Confirmation two, I think a good example of this, at least for me, and by the way, this is all like skill level dependent. So your confirmation levels may differ from mine and mine might differ from yours. But a good example of confirmation two might be like, a partial target at 15 yards and say like half the A zone is sticking out, 15 yards. I need to see more of the dot than just a color. I kind of need to see, maybe a streak and I catch it right dead, right in the center, press the trigger, dot comes down and I press the trigger again. I need to see more of a dot on that particular target. Now, say I have a 25 or 30 yard, partial where again, maybe half the A zone is sticking out. I need to have more confirmation on that. So like that would be a good example of confirmation three. So like look to that target, the dot lands on the target. The dot needs to be a lot more still or a lot more of a dot, not just a color, not just a streak, to be able to score good points on that target at that distance. So this is essentially describing, target difficulty levels and what you need to do in terms of what your sight picture needs to look like to be able to score good points on those. But again, I think people get confused in terms of like which one to actually use. How do you know what type of confirmation level to use? And traveling around, teaching classes and stuff, I see it a lot where we'll have a scenario up where I'll have, targets just kind of randomly placed. There'll be different types of confirmation levels or different types of target difficulty. Like we'll have some open targets up close. Maybe we'll have a partial far away. Maybe there's a partial up close. So they all require different things from you visually. And I see a lot of the time people will just use the exact same confirmation level throughout the entire string of fire. And, sometimes they might hook up, and then a lot of the times they really don't, especially on partials that are a little bit further away, maybe 12, 15 yards, stuff like that. Like if you used your confirmation one, like you would use on an open target up close, that one, the partial at 12, 15 yards is probably not going to go that well for you because you're not seeing enough dot. You're not giving that target enough attention. So, how to know what type of confirmation level that you need to use? I think this is 100% shooter, like skill level dependent. And so, what certain shooters can get away with, others might not. And what you might not be able to get away with right now, maybe in 2 years or a year from now, you will be able to get away with, especially like if you keep trying to get better. And so, I think the easiest way to understand this is if you put your dot on the target, right? And your dot is covering up a lot of the target. Say, for instance, you need to take a headshot at 25 yards and there's a partial underneath it. That dot is covering up way more of that head than it would be if that head shot was at 5 yards. Hopefully this makes sense to you guys. So in other words, like if you look to a target and the dot is covering up a lot, that needs a higher level of confirmation. You need to see more of a dot. The dot needs to be more still or less movement in the dot on those type of targets. Now, that open target inside of 12 yards, 15 yards-ish, right? If you put the dot on that target, you're basically going to see your dot swimming in a sea of brown. That's way less confirmation level, right? That you would need for that particular target. So in other words, I think all of you guys need to be aware of when you're thinking about different types of confirmation levels is when you put the dot on the target that you're trying to shoot. Say you have, several targets up, like, when you dry fire it and you put the dot on the target, like there's a partial right here actually in the back of the camera. I put the dot on the target and I'm like, yep, that needs to be confirmation too. And I know that needs to be confirmation too based off of how much target the dot is covering up. If that was closer, I would perceive the dot to cover up less and I can shoot it with less confirmation. Now, one last thing that I feel like people get kind of confused with is confirmation levels has nothing to do with the speed that you're shooting at. I think that, they'll watch people, maybe watch me demo this and they're like, oh, you shot that one faster. That one I need to be slower on, and that one in the back I really need to be slower on. It has nothing to do with how slow you go, right? Like you can go really, really slow and still not give it the appropriate amount of confirmation and still do really poorly. So it has nothing to do with speed, but speed will be a byproduct of using a higher level of confirmation. In other words, that close, open target, like I can shoot that way faster than I can shoot the one in the very back with a partial underneath the head. But again, the speed is just going to be a byproduct of giving it more confirmation. So you really shouldn't be thinking about confirmation levels in terms of speed. It has nothing to do with that. And it has everything to do with, how much of the target your dot is covering up and how risky is that target. Meaning like how much attention do you need to give that target to score good points. Hopefully this helps you guys out. If you guys have any questions, as always, drop them in the comment box below. Always happy to answer them for you.